So tonight, the main topic is I'm talking about Warcry, and this weekend sees the pre-orders go live for 5 new Warcry books, which for me is a bit, it's madness. There's a lot of stuff coming. That will take all of the Warcry books up to a total of 9. And for a skirmish game or a kind of like a small model count game where you're essentially pushing around between 10 and 15 models, 9 different books is quite a lot to take in, and especially if you're a new player, understanding what each of those books do and which ones do I need, which ones do I not need, is probably going to be a bit confusing at first. So we'll talk a little bit about the books first of all. So what we had up until recently was we had these 3 main books. You can see in the center there is the core book. Everybody needs this book essentially. So if you're just wanting to dip your toe in and try to play the game, this has the main core rules in it. So everybody who plays Warcry will generally have this book. I'm sure there'll be some people who share a book with a friend or whatever, but 99% of players of Warcry will need or will use this book. After that, very quickly behind that being released, we had the Monsters and Mercenaries book. And I bought that one up. So yeah, I've got my books here as well. So we've got my core rule book. We've got that one. I then bought this one in PDF, and essentially what was in this one was the ability to bring in some kind of like hero type models that were available in AOS to boost your warbands to come in as like as a mercenary, as an ally to your warbands. Also, what was in this book was the addition of monsters which you could fight against within your games. You could team up and fight against these monsters. You could have them kind of roaming wild within a battle. You could even at one point sort of bring them in to fight as part of your warband as well. This was all kind of narrative stuff. It wasn't the matched play stuff. It wasn't competitive play type stuff. It was all just about having some fun stories. Also in that book was a few extra kind of missions and special sort of, what do they call them again, quests. And then at the end of last year, we had the Tome of Champions 2019. This was the first time that we had this kind of like this compendium. And what this did was it did a few things. I've got the book here. It's still quite a meaty tome, as they say. And in this book we had some open play missions and stuff. We had some narrative play stuff. There was some more fated quests. So these are the quests that you go on with your different warbands. They had some things called challenge battles, which was again like another way to play the game. Things like roaming beasts. There was all the background tables for all of the Warcry teams or factions that were available at that time. There was some match play stuff that I think was designed for the matched. They were like the kind of the, what's the word I'm looking for? The like the scenarios and stuff for competitive play for that season. And then included in the back as well was all of the cards for the warbands that had cards released that year. So things like Iron Jaws, things like Idoneth Deepkin, all those kind of things. They were all in that book. So when all of the cards got sold out, or certainly some of the factions' cards got sold out, you could at least play those factions with the details in the back of there. So that was what we had up until the end of 2019. Next up, very, very recently, so we had nothing pretty much from the end of 2019 right the way through until September, I think it was now. We had Cry Catacombs. This book is only available if you buy the Warcry Catacombs set. That is this one here. It is much thinner in comparison. It doesn't have the core rules in. The core rules came in that Catacombs set again. But this does have extra rules to basically to play events in the catacombs, in the dungeons, around the pits and stuff like that, the pits of lava and things. As has been mentioned, the back of this book does not have a barcode. The book doesn't have an ISBN code. It looks like this book won't be available separately. It's only available if you buy the Catacombs box. I've lost my train of thought there. Yes, only available in the Catacombs box. Then what we've just had announced this weekend is we have these alliance books, the Grand Alliance books. There is one called Sentinels of, if I get the names up in front of me here, there is one called Sentinels of Order. There is Harbingers of Destruction, Bringers of Death, and Agents of Chaos. And in these books will be all of the stats for all of the different factions and models that are in Warcry now. And I say that because there's some new stuff being added to Warcry that will be in these books. So they probably, at this point in time, there's no talk about bringing in kind of like card packs for all of this stuff. It'll all be in these books. So this was released on Sunday night. And these are the four Grand Alliance books. So we've got Agents of Chaos, we've got Bringers of Death, we've got Harbingers of Destruction, Sentinels of Order. It says here that basically each includes a comprehensive list of leaders, fighters, and monsters available for the various factions that make up the Grand Alliances. So my assumption on that is that basically what I think we'll get is we'll see the monsters from Monsters and Mercenaries coming across to the different faction books. I wasn't sure if we'd see them in Tome of Champions or not, but it looks like we're going to see them in here. And what's also included in this, and what I saw in the leaks, was that basically that there are a lot more leaders that have been added to the different factions. So where you had where you had maybe the option of one leader or two leaders in particular factions or particular war bands before, there's going to be a lot more options. And there's also a few extra fighters as well, some stuff that wasn't included originally. That said, what I went through all of the leaked stuff and compared it against the current stuff, so the cards and the books and things, and there doesn't appear to be any changes to stats, to points costs, or abilities for all of the stuff that I saw. And I probably saw in the leak about 7 or 8, maybe 10 different war bands. I would have thought that if there was going to be any stat upgrades, at least one of those models would have been different, but I didn't see any changes at all. The only thing I could find was on Ideneth Deepkin, there is a leader special ability that was in the Monsters and Mercenaries book, and essentially in Monsters and Mercenaries it said something like it automatically hit basically if you get a triple or whatever it is, it automatically hits. In these new books, it said that on a 3+ it went off. So it's been tweaked slightly, but I could not find any stat changes at all. So if you're hoping that the game's getting a rebalance, I'm not saying that it's not, but certainly from the evidence that I've seen, from the amount of leaks that I saw, which is quite significant, there's no changes, there's no rebalancing of the stuff. It also says that there's basically thematic background tables for each warband. The background tables, as I mentioned in silence, on the back of the Catacombs book, it's the stuff where you roll a d10 for the first name, roll a d10 for the last name, your origins and kind of background information. It's nice to have, but it's not kind of like necessary or anything like that. And basically there'll be some artifacts and stuff to use, which we've seen in some of the other abilities and things. The price of the books, that was one of the things that I did mention here. They're different prices for the different books, which obviously tells you the amount of information that's in each of those books. So the Sentinels of Order and the Agents of Chaos books are £20 each. There's obviously for Chaos, which has all of the original Warcry stuff in it. And Order, there's a lot of factions for Order. Those books must have more information in them. They're £20 each. The Destruction one and the Death books are £15 each. So there's obviously a bit less in them. So if you're wanting to buy all four, they're going to cost you £70 UK prices. I don't have the European pricing or the US or Australia price at the moment, but certainly that's the case. I also noticed as well on the information I get now is that it has country of origin where it's been manufactured, and all of these books have come from China, which is one of the reasons why I think there might have been some delays to these. Also coming out is we can see here that there is the dice for the different factions. It shows 3 here. There is a price that I've got for each of the different factions. So there is definitely, there's dice for Chaos, dice for Death, dice for Destruction, and... Ooh, is there not dice for Order? Yes. Oh yeah, Order dice, Destruction dice, Death dice, and Chaos dice. Yeah, so there's definitely the 4 different factions, even though it only shows 3 here. And they are £16 per set. It also showed here that basically we're getting the opportunity to pre-order the K-Knight Shadow Stalkers and the Scions of the Flame. These are the 2 warbands that came in the Catacombs book. Catacombs box, I should say. The Shadow Stalkers are 30... If I can find them now. Where the Shadow Stalkers are £32.50 in the UK. So kind of midway between the £28-30 warbands that we'd seen previously and the more expensive ones. I think the last batch we saw were £35 for like Skaven or something, and £40 I think it was for the Caradron Overlords, I think it was. So yeah, so they're kind of mid-priced. Legions of Nagash and Sylvaneth are a couple of kind of new boxes that we haven't had before. The Legions of Nagash are priced at £36, so slightly more expensive, but low point models for the skeletons. So we get more skeletons in the box. You can field more skeletons, slightly more expensive. The Sylvaneth one was a bit of a surprise to me. The Sylvaneth one is £45. So this is the most expensive of the warbands. And I think looking at the box there, I think we've got some Kurnoth Hunters in there, and I think that's what's bumping the price of that up a little bit. Because it only looks like we've got maybe, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 models in there. The price of the Kurnoth Hunters is probably bumping that up a little bit. So yeah, so these are all available to pre-order this coming Saturday. There was a bit more information about them. And when I read through this, it says that there's a total of 39 different warbands between them, divided into grand alliances. So that is a lot of different warband options for this game. That's fantastic for anybody just getting into this game. You can pretty much choose whatever you like when it comes to factions. I'm 99.9% sure that every single faction from AOS is now represented in Warcry. Right through Ossiarch Bone Reapers, Cities of Sigmar, Fire Slayers, all of the stuff that's been in the White Dwarf only stuff as well are all in these books, split up by Alliance. So essentially what I think these are books that you do not need to buy. They are optional. I'm kind of caught in that weird middle ground where I've got at least one faction from each one of those 4 books. I'm personally probably not going to pick these up on day one. And the reason is one, I ain't playing any games at the minute. I don't feel the need to rush out and buy them. I'll probably hang on a bit and sort of find out a bit more information. So I don't think that I really need all of that extra stuff right now. It will give me extra options to add to the stuff I've got. It'll give me some extra quests and bits and pieces like that. But the way I've played Warcry over the last kind of year and a half, is essentially I've just enjoyed playing it for a bit of fun with friends. And I've not really gone deep into some of those quests and all of that different bits and pieces. I've just enjoyed playing it as a casual game. So for me, it's not an instant buy. I think if I'd been playing games, I might feel differently about it. But I would say they're definitely optional. They will get people who are crying out for some extra ability to add new models to their warband, to be able to kind of list build a little bit more granular as well. I think they're going to be great. They're not a fortune individually, but as I said before, if you're going to buy the Tome of Champions and those 4 books, you're looking to shell out £90 in the UK, and obviously the equivalents, or when I say the equivalents, the GW equivalents elsewhere around the world. So, as I said before, I think that the Tome of Champions coming at the same time, I think that's probably more down to some delays throughout the year, I think, as opposed to the intention being all of them releasing at the same weekend. So, as I said before, releasing the same weekend, we do have the Tome of Champions 2020. Now, obviously, Tome of Champions 2019, I told you what was in that one. The updated card packs and all of that stuff, which was great when people couldn't get the details to play Iron Jaws or something, or they couldn't get their hands on the cards for certain factions. That was a great way to get the information. Now, if all of that information is now in the Alliance books, do we really need a Tome of Champions? What's in that? This is the Tome of Champions 2020, and it's saying that basically there's new rules for open narrative match play. It says it's 112 pages. Let's have a look and see what was in last year's. There was 128 in last year, so similar size. New rules for open narrative match play, including multiplayer pit fights, new fated quests and challenge battles, as well as a sprawling narrative campaign, I should say. There's a slight delay on this one coming to North America, so we can pre-order it in the UK this Saturday, which will be, what's that, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I think it's the 5th of December. The 12th of December is when this is up for pre-order in the US. So I think there's some kind of delay on these ones. The Tome of Champions, it says that basically it's got a rules update. Now, as I said before, it doesn't look like there's any balancing included. This is just like rules updates, which is probably things like the errata is maybe kind of amalgamated in here a little bit. A rebalancing of glory point system as well, which is interesting, and some updates to reinforcements and the use of consumable items. They're expanding the rules for open player, which is things like Triumph and Treachery pit fights and multiplayer games. Now, I think that all of that stuff has been in White Dwarf over the last 12 months. I'm a subscriber to White Dwarf, so I've seen all the Warcry stuff coming through it each month, or the month that it's been in there. I think that this is just kind of gathering it back into Warcry. Into one of the Warcry books. They expand the rules for narrative play, so there's some background stuff. It says fated quests there with a little asterisk, and if you read below, it says that some of the fated quests are Catacombs quests as well. So if you've bought Warcry Catacombs, there's some extra quest stuff in here. And it says there's expanded rules for match play as well, which is essentially, if we look in Tome of Champions 2019, in the back of here, if I can find it, there was these things, which were the pitch battles that we used for kind of official tournaments and stuff. There's 6 more basically in the 2020 book, which will be used for the 2020-2021 match play season, if you like. Now it also says, which is really interesting, we can see the Gargan here, which is obviously one of the expensive things that GW want to sell more of. What better way than to bring it across into Warcry? And it says, believe it or not, that's not all. For example, we didn't even mention how you'll be able to join forces with a rival to take on terrifying monstrous foe such as a Mega Gargant. Now, what actually gets me quite interested for this bit is the fact that you can join up with a rival to fight against monstrous creatures like Gargants. Now, that to me says that it's co-op, which means you can probably play this as a single player thing as well, unless it's expecting a third player to control the monstrous creature. If there's rules in this that allow us to play that, like 2 players against an AI controlled monster, that would be enough for me to buy the Tome of Champions on its own. To be fair, I would like that. And as I mentioned, I'm sure you heard this bit before, but I think for me personally, the Tome of Champions is probably something I'll pick up. It sounds like there's enough in there to make it worthwhile for me. The Alliance books, I think I'm going to kind of hold off and see where I get to with those. So, how do I feel about it? All of the books releasing in one go, I ain't overly happy about. I would have liked to have seen the 4 kind of Alliance books come out at some point, and the 2020 book come out separately a little bit, just to kind of break that up. It's a lot to kind of all purchase in one go if you're one of those people that feel I need to have everything. What I would say for anybody brand new to Warcry or considering Warcry, these books are all optional. There is nothing in these books that you have to have. As long as you've got the core book and you look online where you'll see some FAQs and things, it doesn't look like all of the cards that you've got are going to be outdated. There may be a few tweaks to bits of wording. There may be some updates, like the errata that's online might be kind of corrected in those books and things. There might be the odd tweak, like I said, the Hangman's Knot for Idneth Deepkin. There might be a few tweaks. But on the grand scheme of things, if you just play casual games, you're not really going to be worried about those books and stuff. Yes, there's going to be some new narrative stuff in there. There's going to be some really good quests in there, I've got no doubt. There's going to be some interesting stuff just to kind of to mix your games up. I like the idea of bringing in all of the White Dwarf stuff into one place and putting them into 2020 Tome of Champions. I like the idea of this sort of ganging up against monsters and things. So for me, I think the 2020 Tome of Champions is a really good purchase for £20, and for discounts with your local retailers. There'll be links down in the description of this video where you can see one which kind of helps me out in the channel with an affiliate link. I think that's probably not a bad purchase, and especially if we can do that kind of that teaming up thing, which allows us to make it as a bit of a solo campaign type thing. But the Alliance books, I'm personally not in any mega rush. I think I'll have a look online. I'll see them all get shared out to the folks who get them early, and then after that, I'll probably pick and choose. Like I say, I've got warbands split across all the different factions, so I'd essentially have to buy all 4, and I don't really fancy spending £70 on books right now for the game. I'm not getting to play it, unfortunately. So, what do you think? I'm going to go back now and chat to the live stream, but if you're watching this on the Tuesday Eclipse video, let me know down in the comments what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it, and if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month, and there is lots of different tiers and bonuses which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.